It was just a sleepover, until he pulled me into his arms at 2 a.m. It started the way it always does, casual, harmless, like nothing out of the ordinary. Jake had stayed over at my place a few times before. It wasn't some rare occurrence. We were close friends, best friends maybe, depending on who you asked. We'd been through high school together, sat shoulder to shoulder in cramped classrooms, played co-op games in the middle of the night, and complained about life, girls, and homework until we forgot what we were even talking about. So when he shot me a quick text that Friday night, "Mind if I crash at yours tonight? Mom's got her new boyfriend over and I really don't want to hear that again." I didn't hesitate. I sent back a simple, "Doors open. Bring snacks." He showed up at 10 p.m. with a half-eaten bag of chips, 2 energy drinks, and that familiar tired grin like he hadn't slept in a week. He always had that look, like life was just a little too heavy on his shoulders, but he carried it like it was nothing. We did the usual. Gamed, watched YouTube, laughed at memes that wouldn't be funny to anyone else. Just two guys, chilling in the safety of each other's orbit. I wish I could say there was some shift, some noticeable moment where things changed. But there wasn't, not until 2 a.m. Until then, it was exactly what it looked like. A sleepover between best friends. We ended up both lying on my bed, like we'd done plenty of times before. It wasn't weird. My room didn't have a spare mattress, and the couch was awful for sleeping. We'd figured out long ago that if we lay shoulder to shoulder and respected the unspoken rule of no touching, it worked just fine. The lights were off. My fan hummed quietly above us. Outside, the occasional car whispered past on the street. Jake was on his phone, brightness dimmed low. I was staring up at the ceiling, not really thinking, just listening to his breathing. Slow, even, comforting in a way I couldn't quite explain. And then, out of nowhere, his voice broke the silence. "You ever wonder what it'd be like if, I don't know, you were with a guy?" My stomach clenched. I didn't turn toward him. I didn't even blink. Because yes, I had, many times. But not with just any guy. With him. My voice came out quieter than I wanted. Sometimes. Yeah. There was a long pause. I could feel his body shift slightly, like he'd rolled onto his side, maybe to look at me. "You ever think about us?" he asked. "Like, me and you?" My chest felt like it was being squeezed. Did I lie? Did I laugh it off like it was a joke? Did I pretend I didn't understand what he meant? I swallowed. "Why are you asking me this right now?" He was silent for a second. Then he said something I didn't expect. "Because I had a dream last night. About you." That's when I finally turned to face him. It was too dark to see much, just the outline of his face, the soft glint of his eyes catching the streetlight through the blinds. "What kind of dream?" I asked, already knowing the answer. We ended up both lying on my bed, like we'd done plenty of times before. It wasn't weird. My room didn't have a spare mattress, and the couch was awful for sleeping. We'd figured out long ago that if we lay shoulder to shoulder and respected the unspoken rule of no touching, it worked just fine. The lights were off. My fan hummed quietly above us. Outside, the occasional car whispered past on the street. Jake was on his phone, brightness dimmed low. I was staring up at the ceiling, not really thinking, just listening to his breathing. Slow, even, comforting in a way I couldn't quite explain. And then, out of nowhere, his voice broke the silence. "You ever wonder what it'd be like if, I don't know, you were with a guy?" My stomach clenched. I didn't turn toward him. I didn't even blink. Because yes, I had, many times. But not with just any guy. With him. My voice came out quieter than I wanted. Sometimes. Yeah. There was a long pause. I could feel his body shift slightly, like he'd rolled onto his side, maybe to look at me. "You ever think about us?" he asked. "Like, me and you?" My chest felt like it was being squeezed. Did I lie? Did I laugh it off like it was a joke? Did I pretend I didn't understand what he meant? I swallowed. "Why are you asking me this right now?" He was silent for a second. Then he said something I didn't expect. "Because I had a dream last night. About you." That's when I finally turned to face him. It was too dark to see much, just the outline of his face, the soft glint of his eyes catching the streetlight through the blinds. "What kind of dream?" I asked, already knowing the answer. He gave a small, nervous laugh. Not like him at all. The kind that makes it hard to look you in the eye the next day. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. And then, without warning, without any hesitation, he reached over and pulled me into him. Not a bro hug. Not a playful wrestling move like we used to do when we were younger. No, he pulled me into his arms. My head pressed against his chest. I could hear his heartbeat. Fast. Unsteady. Just like mine. Neither of us spoke. He didn't let go. And I didn't want him to. I wish I could tell you I stayed calm. That I played it cool. That I just melted into his arms and let everything unfold naturally. But the truth is, I froze. Not because I didn't want it. God, I wanted it. I froze because he had always lived in a place inside me that felt off limits. Jake was the kind of guy everyone liked. The kind of guy who dated girls easily, laughed loudly, fit in everywhere. He was safe, straight, or so I'd told myself over and over. Now, here he was, his arms wrapped around me like it was the most natural thing in the world. His chest rising and falling against mine. I whispered, "Jake, what are you doing?" He held me a little tighter. "I don't know." Silence again. The kind that carries weight. I didn't want to be alone tonight," he said, his voice barely more than a breath. "But I didn't want to just be with anyone. I wanted to be with you." It hit me so hard I couldn't even respond. I felt everything and nothing all at once. Warmth, panic, longing. 1,000 questions fought in my head. Was this a one-time thing? Was he experimenting? Would this change everything? Would he regret it? Would I regret it? But in that moment all I could do was listen. He kept talking, his words shaky but real. "I don't know what it means. I'm not saying I'm, gay, or even bi. I don't know. I just know that when I had that dream, I didn't wake up freaked out. I woke up wanting more." His hand slid gently up my back. "Not sexual. Just close. I've always felt safe with you," he murmured. "But lately it's felt like more than that." I didn't want to say anything, 'cause I thought I'd mess everything up. But tonight, I don't know, man. I just wanted to feel something real. I finally looked up at him. He looked scared. Vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. And still somehow incredibly him. "I've thought about you too," I said quietly. "A lot more than I've ever admitted to myself." His eyes softened, and for a second I saw something shift. Some guard he'd always carried suddenly fall away. He leaned down, not quickly, slowly, cautiously, like he was giving me time to stop him, like he was giving himself time to change his mind. But I didn't stop him, and he didn't pull away. Our lips met, unsure at first, just a brush. Then again, deeper, and again. It wasn't perfect. Our teeth bumped. His hand trembled a little against my jaw. But it was real, and I think that's what made it so unforgettable. We didn't talk much after that. We didn't need to. He held me through the night, like I was something worth holding on to. At some point, around 4 a.m., I heard him whisper, almost to himself, "This doesn't feel wrong." And I whispered back, "Because it's not." Morning came like a slow unraveling, soft sunlight leaking through the blinds, casting thin gold lines across the room, across us. I woke up still tangled in his arms. Jake's breathing was even, his grip still around my waist, like part of him didn't want to let go even in sleep. His face was inches from mine, relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months, maybe years. I should have felt nervous, or awkward, or scared, but I didn't. I just lay there, memorizing the way his brow relaxed in sleep, the slight curve of his lips, the rise and fall of his chest. Then his eyes opened, and I swear, for a split second, I thought I saw regret flash through them. But it disappeared. "Hey!" he said, voice raspy from sleep. "Hey!" I whispered back. We stayed like that for a second, maybe longer, and then slowly he let go. The warmth that filled my chest hours earlier began to cool. He sat up, rubbing his face. "That Wasn't a dream, right? I forced a smile, trying to read him. No, wasn't a dream. Jake didn't look at me. He just stared at the floor for a moment. And then he laughed, this low, half-nervous sound. Well, that's a first. I didn't laugh. My heart was in my throat. Are you okay? I asked. He finally looked at me. His eyes were complicated. Not cold, not cruel, but distant. I don't know, he said honestly. I'm trying to be. I wanted to reach out, to pull him back into that safety we had hours ago. But something was different now. Something cracked open that we couldn't unsee. I meant what I said last night, I told him. I felt things for you. For a while. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I know. I think part of me always knew. Jake stood up, walked over to the window, opened the blinds a little. Sunlight spilled into the room. He looked older in that light. More real. I don't know what this means, he said again. I don't know if I can be what you want me to be. I don't even know who I am right now. I felt my stomach twist, but I kept my voice steady. I'm not asking you to be anything, I said. I just want honesty. He looked over at me. Then honestly, I liked last night. I liked being close to you. Felt good. But I'm scared, man. I nodded. Me too. There was a long silence. Then he walked over, sat back down next to me, but not as close as before. I need time, he said, to figure this out, to figure me out. I swallowed hard. I get that. He looked at me with that same softness I saw in the dark. But last night, it wasn't a mistake. Don't think that. Please. I nodded again, my throat tight. I won't. Jake smiled, the faintest curve of his lips. We didn't talk much after that. He stayed a little while longer, then got up, stretched, and told me he'd text me later. I watched him leave, backpack slung over one shoulder, hair still messy from sleep. And when the door closed behind him, the room felt quieter than it had in a long time. The hours after he left felt like they were made of fog. I sat on my bed for what must have been an hour, replaying everything. The way he held me, the way he kissed me, the way he pulled away in the morning. I tried to assign meaning to every pause, every look, every breath. But none of it added up to a clear answer. I kept checking my phone. Not obsessively, but yeah, okay, obsessively. Just waiting for that little ding. That one message that might bring clarity. Or comfort. Or something. It didn't come. Not that day. Not the next. I told myself not to panic. That he was processing. That it was complicated for him in a way it wasn't for me. And that was true. But it didn't stop the ache from settling in. The next time I saw him was 5 days later. At school. He didn't avoid me. He didn't act cold. But he wasn't him either. We made eye contact in the hallway. Just long enough for me to hope he'd walk over. But he just gave me a small nod, barely there, and kept moving. That night he finally texted, "Can we talk?" My heart thudded. I typed back immediately, "Of course." We met up at our usual spot, the small park near the edge of town, where we used to sit on the swings and talk about nothing. He was already there when I arrived, hands in his hoodie pocket, shoulders hunched. When he saw me, he gave a small smile. "Hey!" I sat beside him. "Hey!" It was quiet for a bit. Then he said, "I've thought about that night every day since it happened." I looked down. "Me too." He took a deep breath. "It wasn't just a moment for me. I didn't do it out of confusion. Or because I was bored or whatever. I pulled you into me because it felt like the only thing I wanted to do." I looked up at him. His voice didn't shake this time. "But when I woke up and realized it was real, I panicked," he said. "Because I've never been with a guy. I've never let myself feel that way. But with you it was just easy and terrifying." I nodded slowly. "I get it. You don't have to explain." He turned toward me. "I want to explain." That caught me off guard. "I'm not saying I have all the answers," he went on. "I still don't know exactly what this means for me. I don't have the labels or the map. But I know that when I held you that night, it felt like the first time I wasn't pretending. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I blinked them away. Jake reached for my hand. I don't want to lose what we have, but I don't want to run from what we could have either. I held his hand tighter. Then don't. His eyes searched mine. You'd really be okay figuring this out with me? Slowly, I nodded. As long as you're honest with me. Always. He exhaled. Like a breath he'd been holding for years finally left his lungs. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't need to. He walked me home, held my hand the whole way, said goodnight with a smile that reached his eyes. And for the first time in a long while, I went to bed not feeling unsure or unwanted. Just full. Of something fragile. Something beautiful. Something that maybe, just maybe, could grow. The days that followed weren't some magical shift into a perfect love story. They were slow. Awkward, even. Jake and I still sat next to each other at lunch, still joked about dumb things, still argued over who was better at Mario Kart. But there was something new layered under all of that. A quiet sort of closeness. One we didn't name. One we didn't need to explain. Sometimes, I'd catch him looking at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. Sometimes I'd do the same. And when our eyes met, there was no more flinching, no more panic. Just this warm hum of recognition. Like we were both in on a secret the world didn't need to know yet. We didn't tell anyone. Not because we were ashamed, but because it was ours. And truthfully, it was still forming. Still messy. Still undefined. There were nights we texted for hours, confessions spilling out in half sentences. Jake told me about the first time he felt different, but shoved it down. How he dated girls because it was easy, expected. How he wasn't even sure if he liked them, or if he just liked not being questioned. I don't know what I am, he texted once. But when I'm with you, I feel like I am something. Like I make sense. And I told him that was enough. Some nights, he came over again. We didn't call them sleepovers anymore. We just called it hanging out. But sometimes, at 2 a.m., I'd feel his hand reach for mine under the blanket. Or he'd rest his head on my chest. Like it was the most natural place to be. One night, as we lay there in that quiet space between friendship and something more, he said softly, "Do you think people would understand?" I didn't answer right away. "I think the right ones would," I said finally. "And the rest don't matter as much as we think they do." Jake didn't say anything for a while. Then, "I'm scared they'll look at me and not see me anymore. Just a label." I pulled him closer. "Then let them look. We'll still know the truth." And the truth was, he was figuring himself out. I was already halfway in love with him. And we were doing something neither of us had ever done before, letting go of what we thought we were supposed to be and stepping into what we could be. It wasn't perfect. Some days he pulled back, got quiet, distant, and those days hurt. But every time he came back, not with grand gestures or dramatic apologies, just little things. A touch on the shoulder, a dumb meme sent at midnight, a text that said, "I miss your face." We built something out of those moments. Something real. The real turning point came the night of his birthday. It wasn't a party, just the two of us, a pizza, a cheap bottle of soda, and a playlist of songs we'd passed back and forth for months. We sat on my bedroom floor, surrounded by crumbs and laughter, and for a while, it just felt like before. Easy. Free. But I could tell something was different in him that night. He was quieter, thoughtful. At one point, as we lay side by side, staring up at the ceiling, like we had so many times before, he whispered, "Can I tell you something?" I turned my head to look at him. Always. He didn't meet my eyes right away. "I told my sister about us." My heart skipped. "Yeah." Jake nodded slowly. "She asked if I was gay, and I told her I didn't know. I told her it's not really about that. It's about you." I didn't say anything. Couldn't. He finally looked at me, his voice soft but steady. "I told her you make me feel safe. Like I can breathe. Like I don't have to perform anymore." I swallowed hard. "What did she say?" "She cried," he said with a crooked smile. "Said she was proud of me." We lay there in silence for a long time. Then Jake reached out and took my hand. "I'm tired of hiding," he said. "From you. From myself. From whatever this is becoming." I stared at him, not fully believing what I was hearing. "You mean that?" He nodded. I don't want to keep tiptoeing around it. I like you, more than like you, and I want to see where this can go, not in secret, not in fear. I felt my throat tighten. This boy, who once flinched at his own feelings, was now looking me in the eye, choosing me. He leaned in and kissed me, slow and sure. And this time, there was no hesitation, no confusion, just us, wrapped in the quiet truth of what we were becoming. Later that night, as we curled into each other in the dark, I asked, "Do you think we'll be okay?" He didn't answer right away. Then, gently, he kissed the top of my head. "I don't know," he said, "but I think this is the first time I want to find out. And maybe that's what love looks like in the real world. Not fireworks or fairy tales, but slow moments, honest ones. A sleepover that turns into something deeper. A 2 a.m. confession that rewrites the way you look at someone. A heart that finally stops running. Not because it's sure of everything, but because it's finally sure of you."